Hello. And today I'm joined by Jay from Stretford Paddock. How you doing today, Jay?
I'm good, mate. I just want to say that I'm wearing a Spain top, not because I'm a Spain fan, but I've just been playing five-a-side and I've just had it on for five-a-side. That's why I'm in my Spain top, in case you're wondering.
Are you really good at five side?
I'm very good at shouting at people, motivational shouting, like good ball, good pass, keep going, that sort of thing.
So basically you're one of the shit ones.
Yes, I have one of the shit ones. Exactly, yeah.
So, 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 so I don't know whether you've seen any of my stuff, but I've had Adam McCullough on before, so it could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I know Adam McCall very well. Yeah, I'm honoured to be following in his footsteps. Telling you,
So, so when I was speaking to you, you mentioned that you didn't like mainstream journalism, but you did like the fan side of journalism. So what was that like?
it was good, man. I was a reporter for local news for about 9 years, so it wasn't just sport that I did. I did like sort of crimes, tragedies, interviews, politics, that sort of stuff. So I enjoyed it. It was good, and got to interview some very interesting people. Like the Prime Minister when it was David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn when he was leader of the opposition. I interviewed like some Wayne Rooney, Ryan Giggs, Roberto Mancini as well. Not that I cared too much about City players and City managers, but it was good. The only thing was it was a lot of work because you're constantly working. I was constantly out and about reporting, and sometimes it could be quite harrowing because you're covering a lot of tragedies, you're covering crimes, and it could be quite, it was difficult at times not to take that home with you. You get home after a day's work and you're still thinking about
Yeah.
the stories that you covered. So whilst I enjoyed it, I thought when I got to a certain age and I had a few kids, it was time to do something different.
So 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 what made you want to get into it initially? Was it like just something that you wanted to do on school?
Do you know what? I was a late bloomer to it. I left school and I went to college and I dropped out of college. And then I was working for about 10 years and I was working in a warehouse and I used to hate my job and everyone else hated it. And I thought, I've always wanted to be a journalist. I've always wanted to do something around journalism. So I went back to college, I did an access course, then I went to uni and did journalism. And then I graduated when I was 30 years old. So I was an old man by the time I graduated compared to some of the others. And then I did it till I was, just till I was about 40. About 38, 39. But yeah, it was something I'd always thought about, but I'd never done until I got into my mid-20s. And then I thought, if I don't do it now, probably won't ever do it. So that's when I went back to college.
So really, so really, you're the best example. I I don't really matter because a lot of people think if you haven't found your dream job by the age of 40, then you're probably not going to find it. That's what a lot of people think. But you're the perfect example of age doesn't really matter.
Age doesn't matter, you're right. I mean, I thought, the chance had passed me by, or that the chance of going to uni had passed me by. And then, when I was in my sort of mid to late 20s, I just went back to college and did it and then went to uni. And I'm looking actually, even now, I'm thinking about even going back to uni now and maybe doing a master's or doing something there because I don't think you can ever say you're too old to do it. You look at what people have achieved. Some people like, George Foreman was the heavyweight champion when he was 45. How old Joe Biden? He's the president. He's about 78 or something, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you're never too old. I mean, people are, anyone who says, "Oh, you're too old to do that," just take a notice. If you think you can do something and you want to do it, then you should go for it.
But do you think that's also a society problem? The way society is set up, I think it's set up in a way that if you don't achieve something by a certain age, then you're seen as a failure.
I couldn't agree more. I think that happens in a lot of walks of life, especially as well with football. If you look at now, we write players off by the time they're 22, 23, and we say, oh, he's not good enough or he won't make it. And you think, he's not even got going, he's not even started. And I think sometimes with society as well, in general, we can say to people, oh, they're not gonna make it, or especially if, like myself, when I was younger, I used to get into trouble quite a lot, and I sort of a bit of a reformed character. And I think people always deserve a bit of a chance. And I think we should, as a society, give people a chance as well, because sometimes we're too quick to dismiss people and saying, oh, that's it, their life is mapped out for them. And your life's never mapped out for you. Life's what you make it, without getting all philosophical.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Obviously, my story is a lot different to yours. But even what I do, a lot of people assume that I'm not going to be able to achieve anything because of my disability. So I know that feeling to a certain extent.
I mean, look at how well you've been doing as well. You've even got to interview Adam McCullough. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, but, but, so, so obviously you're a Man United fan. So what made you support Man United?
I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't have a choice. My dad took me to Old Trafford when I was about 5, and that was it. And to be honest with you, it's not like I wanted to support anyone else. I loved it when I started going to the games when I was little. Loved going to the football with my dad. Loved Manchester United, and I was very lucky that I grew up in an era when Manchester United were just dominant. We won everything. We had some fantastic teams, some fantastic players. So yeah, I never looked back from a little age of being like 5 or 6 to the age I am now. And I just hope my kids are the same, because when I was growing up, City were rubbish, but now City are winning quite a lot. And I'm trying to make sure my kids are United fans and they don't support City.
Yeah, to be to be honest, if I had children, yeah, I couldn't really make them follow a team like that. To be honest with you, to be honest with you, I don't support a team anyway. I just like the overall game of football. My family support Villa, so I guess you could say I like to follow Villa, but I wouldn't really say I support Villa.
Do you follow international football? Are you watching the Euros? Have you got
Yeah,
a team there?
yeah. Well, I don't really have a team that I'm hoping wins. I'm just enjoying the tournament, to be honest.
Do you know what? I'd love sometimes, and I'm doing this in the Euros. It's nice to just be able to watch a game of football and just enjoy it without getting angry or upset if a team's winning or losing. Because sometimes when I'm watching United, I can't enjoy it. It's not been the greatest sort of spell for us as well. But yeah, it's nice like that, just to be able to watch some of the Euro games where I don't really care who wins. It's just good football.
And I think when you're watching football, following a team can really narrow your perspective on it. Like, say, for example, if Man City have a great season, obviously, because you're a Man United fan, your opinion could be clouded, and you obviously, because of the rivalry, you could you could lie to yourself and say, no, they're cheating, when deep down inside, you know they're not.
I am that fan, mate. I am the guy that does that. I am so bitter and biased. I'm terrible. And it's like, when City won 100 points or whatever, and I was like, they got lucky. They had refs on their side. It's all, when Liverpool won it, it's all VAR. I am very bitter, and my perspective is terrible.
I understand that because it's obviously a part of the sporting rivalry, but I prefer to watch all sports as neutral. Like, I enjoy sports a lot more like that.
Yeah, I mean, when you can watch something as a neutral, sometimes you don't have that passion and that sort of emotion, but you can watch it with a bit more of a objective eye, and you can enjoy it more in certain ways, because you're not so biased, and you're not so, almost sometimes you get angry watching football when you care too much, or you get really disappointed. But when you don't have a team like that, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, I didn't really have a choice. Like I said, I was United from the time I was little. But it must be nice to watch more games where you don't have to get so angry and so upset if your team doesn't win. Even though you say your family are Villa fans, and Villa are doing all right, aren't they?
Yeah, I've heard that Ashley Young be coming back to Villa, so that will be great, won't?
Ashley Young.
to be honest, yeah, I think I understand why they're bringing him back as a substitute. But to be honest, I don't think he'll be fit enough to be a substitute. But who knows?
No, he obviously, he got a lot of stick when he's at United, Ashley Young, but I think I always liked him and I thought he was a good servant for us.
Yeah, I'm sure he would do a decent job for us, but I'm just like, is he really, is he really what we need, even as a backup? To be honest, in my personal opinion, I think at this point in his career, he's like third string.
I think you're right. I think that, you look at the season Villa have had, the age he is as well. I think the main thing for Villa is just trying to keep hold of Jack Grealish because he's such a talent.
This is where me coming in as a neutral. I think eventually he's gonna have to go to a bigger. He's gonna have to go to a bigger club. Because even though I would love for Villa to get into the Champions League and beyond, realistically, I don't think we're going to.
I hope you don't say that in front of your family. I don't need to say go to a bigger club. You'd be upsetting them all.
I do that. I do that anyway.
At least you're being honest.
I always try and be honest. I know sometimes you do have to. I say you have to sugarcoat it, but it's the way you say it, isn't it? Sometimes it's not only being honest, but it's the way you put it across. Like if you say somebody's shit or whatever, even though some people find that funny, I think sometimes there's a better way to articulate it.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and I think that's something that sometimes, especially on a fan channel like ours, we have to try and do that. You can criticize players, and you can, say that if you don't think they're good enough, but sometimes I think, especially in modern sort of fan culture, we can go a little bit over the top. People can go over the top, and they can attack players, and they can be quite horrible. And I think that's something we can all try and be, do less of, and try and be a little bit kinder. It's okay to criticize a player and say he's not good enough, but sometimes I think too many people do go a little bit over the top, and that's something I think we can all tone down.
it I, I feel like I think that's what you bring to Stretford Paddock really well. Obviously you can have like the banter and things like that, but you can also bring another side to it. And I'm not saying the other guys can't, but because of your journalistic background, I think you can bring something unique that not many of the other guys can bring. With all due respect to them.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's good about Stretford Paddock is we've got a mixed bag there. So you've got the likes of, McCullough and Howson, who've done a lot of YouTube stuff, come from that background. You've got Joe, who's, he's done a lot of stuff in front of and behind the camera. And then you've got my different background with journalism. And I think it works really well because we've all got different sort of backgrounds and experience, and we can all bring that to the channel.
So as you just mentioned, so what was your first experience with Stephen Harrison, like actually in public?
Stephen Howson. Do you know what? Right, my first experience with Stephen Howson was I saw him on a video with Liverpool fans arguing with Liverpool fans, and I thought he was pretty funny. I thought this guy, you know what, I could get on with him. And then because obviously he's in Manchester, I bumped into him a few times. I actually bumped into him once at the Cenotaph when he was at the War Memorial, and we got on really well. And I know that with Howson, he's a very divisive figure, and a lot of people, he's like a bit Marmite. He's like Marmite. People either tend to love him or hate him. But I always get on really well with Steve. We're similar age, similar era. But yeah, I always say to people, the thing with Howson is, on camera, people think he can be a bit of a muppet, but off camera, yeah, he's just as bad.
By by the way, if you can say whatever you want for the most part. So if you want to say anything, like if you want to curse, you can curse. It's not a PG channel, so don't worry about it. If you want to say,
Okay, so if I wanted to call Howson a knobhead, I could do that.
yeah.
He's all right. He's my mate. I won't say that.
But I think sometimes you can have actual novens and you can have nice novens, and and I think there's a nice moment. Obviously, you can disagree with his opinion, but I think, I think, I just think he comes across as like a normal guy, and that's what people like about him.
I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, mate. I do a podcast with him. I do House and Brew with him every week, and I love doing it. I do. Me and him have a great laugh, and he's a good guy, and yeah, he's very opinionated, but we have a good laugh.
He's, he, he's very libelous.
Yeah. We are. We always walk a thin line sometimes where I think we get in real trouble.
Look at the audience that you guys are at a relatively I don't want to say unknown, but I don't think anybody's looking at your channel for to look for libelous stuff. So you're okay for that.
Famous last words, that. Hey, we'll have to be careful.
So what is the normal day in your life? Like, what is your daily routine?
For me, daily routine is usually when I'm on the channel, we do the news in the morning. So sometimes I'll go to Old Trafford to do like the news, we'll report from there. Then we usually do a podcast in the afternoon. So we're preparing for that. That might be me and Housen or McCullough or Joe, or we've got other people that come on the channel as well. Obviously, if there's football, if the games are on, we might do a preview. Usually at the studio. We're based in Manchester City Centre. And then sometimes we have a late night show as well. If I'm on that, I'll stick around for that. If not, I'll come home and I've got 3 kids. So when I get home, they keep me busy.
So I assume your children like football.
Well, what my lad, right? He was 6. He's just turned 6, right? And he was going to football, but he wanted to go. He asked me about going to boxing, and I said he could go boxing when he turned 6. And he turned 6 last week, and he went to boxing for the first time because he said, "I'm 6 now, can I go to boxing?" So he's just started getting into boxing. My daughter, my eldest daughter, she plays football, and she's quite good. She plays for the local team. And my youngest daughter, she's a bit too young to do football yet. She plays in the garden with me. We were playing in the garden today. But yeah, she says she wants to play football, but we'll have to wait and see.
So do you like boxing? I'm a really big fan of boxing. I am.
Oh, I used to be. I used to be a big boxing fan in the sort of the 90s when I was a kid. I used to love the likes of Nigel Benn and Prince Naseem Hamed and Mike Tyson when I was a bit young. I used to like him. And then Evander Holyfield and some of them other fighters around that area, Lennox Lewis. But as I got older, I sort of went off it a little bit. I do watch a little bit of boxing. I went to watch Ricky Hatton not so long ago. I've been fortunate enough to get to know Andy Croller, so I was always a big fan of his. But yeah, I don't watch boxing as much as I used to. Who's your favourite fighter?
At the moment, it got to be from a pure boxing perspective. It got to be Tyson Fury. But in terms of excitement, it got to be Deontay Wilder just for the knockouts. It depends. Like some days I want to see actual boxing quality, and if I want to see that, I obviously go to people like Tyson Fury and people like Manny Pacquiao and people like that. And then there's some days where I just want to see somebody get knocked out.
Well, I think most people that watch boxing want to see that, don't they? We want to see a big knockout. There's nothing better than seeing something like that. But I like Tyson Fury. I interviewed Tyson Fury years ago when he was an up-and-coming boxer. And he was a pretty nice guy, to be honest with you. I've gotten quite well with him. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I'd love to see him and Joshua get together.
Yeah. The one thing I don't like about boxing, I think there's too many people involved in it. What I mean by that is there's too many people with so many hands in the pie. I think it ruins the sport.
No, I know what you mean. It's there's so many belts now. There's so many governing bodies. There's so many promoters, like you say. There's so many managers, so many channels that it's on. It does seem sometimes like it is a bit of a mess, a bit of a shambles. And also, there's always been this feeling that sometimes boxing's not fair. And I get that sometimes, sometimes you look at decisions and you just think, what is going on?
Like, in my personal opinion, I don't know why I don't know why we're saying why would the first Fury be free, because I don't know whether you saw any of their fights here, but in the second one, Tyson won it convincingly. So I don't know why we're having the third one, but as I say, just because of politics.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Tyson won in both, to be honest with you. I thought the first one wasn't a draw. I thought he won that. And I thought he won the second one as well. So it just seems pointless having a third one. But again, these are the sort of, like you say, there's a lot of people involved, contracts involved, and a lot of money involved as well. But I'd love to see, like I said to you earlier, I'd love to see Tyson Fury and Andy Joshua get together, because I think that'd be the biggest fight in British boxing history.
When it will happen when they're both old and when they're both past their prime. That's when it will happen. When
Yeah.
nobody when nobody cares about it anymore.
Yeah,
So
maybe we'll see him in the 40s or something fighting each other.
so so the, so obviously Portugal played yesterday. So there's obviously rumours of Ronaldo coming back to Man United. To be honest with you, I think if you got him back, he might. He obviously would score a couple more goals here. But I think long term, I think we need to go with a lot younger players.
I agree. I think I've always said that if Ronaldo came back, everyone would be buzzing because he's Ronaldo and he's come back to United. But long term, he's not the answer. We need some players that we can sort of build around, because, like Edinson Cavani, for example, great player, but he's only going to be here for another season. I think we brought in Zlatan when he was at the end of his career. Well, not the end, because he's gone on to play another 5-6 years. But when he was getting on a bit, it'd be good to see if we could get some players for the future, because Ronaldo, everyone would be over the moon if Ronaldo came back to United. All the fans would be buzzing. But then in a year's time, you're going to have to replace him. So we need to start thinking long term.
And
I
if,
agree with you.
and if you see him playing for Portugal and for Juve, it's very much. I don't obviously because he's getting on a bit. I say getting on a bit, but you know what I mean. Like he's getting
Yeah.
up there, he's getting up there in age, so he doesn't really get involved in the play as much as he used to, and that's what I think a lot of these fans are fantasizing about the old Ronaldo coming back rather than this new Ronaldo. And obviously he's still a great player, but he tends to just just I just don't think he gets involved in the play as much as he used to.
No, I agree. I think, he's always got goals in him and he'll always get you goals. But Ronaldo used to just terrorise defences, didn't he? He used to be running at players all the time. And he's had to adjust his game, and I get that. But yeah, it's a different type of Ronaldo than the one that left Old Trafford in 2009 or whatever it was.
I think he's a lot more. I, I think he's a lot more or me orientated, if you know what I mean. Because back then because he was younger, he was a lot more team orientated, and I think nowadays he's more individualistic, if you know what I mean.
No, 100%. When we had Ronaldo at United, when he started off, he wasn't as sort of prolific and he wasn't as selfish, shall we say. I mean that in a positive way, but he was more about a sort of, like you say, a team player. Ruud van Nistelrooy was the main man when Ronaldo arrived. But then he grew to become this superstar, and he worked well with Tevez and Rooney. But as he's gone on to Real Madrid, as he's gone on to Juve, he's always been the main man. And like you say, it is about him and his goals and his records and stuff. And sometimes you need someone who can fit in and help bring in others as well. And I don't know if he's that type of player. And I think you're right. I don't think he's actually.
Because when I remember when he was at Real Madrid, there was times where he wouldn't like goals because they didn't pass him the ball.
I know. Do you remember the one where, I think it was one where Gareth Bale did scored a goal. Ronaldo did an overhead kick. I think it hit the bar or got saved. And then Gareth Bale scored, and Ronaldo looked angry. He was angry that he hadn't scored.
So even though he'll get you a load of goals, I don't think he likes your harmony.
No, I agree. I think he wouldn't be. I think we've got to start thinking long term and think what's best for the team. And I don't think Ronaldo is the answer for that.
So obviously, when I spoke me and Adam McCall are big Anthony Martial fans. So do you think he'll be going in summer, or do you think he'll have one more season at United?
There's no bigger Anthony Martial fan than Adam McCullough. He loves him, doesn't he? He loves Anthony Martial, doesn't he? Hey,
To be fair, I love him as well, but
yeah. Oh,
unfortunately, I don't think it's really going to work out for him. I think he's been there too long now, and I think not only the fans, but I think he's also got a bit like down in the dumps at United. I think he needs to go somewhere else just to give his career a bit more life, if you know what I mean.
yeah. I think that you look at the last season, 4 Premier League goals. It's not really happened for him. In answer to your question, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he'll give him one more season. But I think if he has another season like the one he's just had, I think that'll be his last one at United.
To be honest with you, I think he'll be off next summer anyway, no matter what happens. I obviously, obviously, a lot of people complain. It's like really miserable, and I'm not saying it's because it's not happy. Because I think some people are just naturally miserable. Like I know people, yeah, even when they're happy, they never really smile. But I'm just saying, I think from his career perspective, I just don't think he's a fit for Man United.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there was a time when it looked like he was going to be a star at United. His first season, I think he scored 17 goals. I was there for his debut against Liverpool where he scored, and everyone thought this is going to be, a player that's going to be here for a long time and win a lot of trophies. It's not quite happened. He had a good season 2 seasons ago. Last season, not so much. So I think it's make or break time, and he might not even get another chance, like you said. It might be this summer he moves on. But, if he does move on, I'll look back at his time with fondness because he scored some important goals for Andy Martial.
And sometimes it's not only a case of their form. Sometimes players and people they just want to move because their lifestyle doesn't fit where they are. And I just think with Anthony Martial, I just think he would be permitting a place like PSG.
Yeah, that could be a good fit for him. Obviously, he's French. He might prefer that. He's got a young family as well. I think maybe that is the right move for him. Like you were saying earlier, is he the right fit for Manchester United anymore? I'm not so sure. It looked like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer rated him, but now with Cavani there, if we get Sancho, that means Mason Greenwood could go in the middle as well. Anthony Martial may find chances few and far between at Old Trafford. So maybe a move to someone like PSG could help him because I think if he went there, I think he'd actually do really well and score a lot of goals.
Like like I just think at somewhere like PSG, you can become a really big star because unfortunately that league as a whole, I wouldn't say, how do I say, it's not up to the same standard of the Premier League. I think that's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've got some good teams there. Obviously, Lille have won the league. PSG are always, a good team. There's one or two others. But you look at the sort of, the bottom half of that table or, even the bottom 2/3, they're not on the same standard. In the Premier League, you've got good teams that are in mid-table, the likes of Arsenal and Villa. They're decent teams. You've got quite good teams, and yet they're in the middle table. If you go into the French league, you don't get that standard once you go outside the top 2 or 3. So he could go there, playing for a team like PSG, alongside the likes of Mbappe and Neymar, and absolutely smash it.
Maybe when he gets the confidence back up, he will move on to a number. Because I think the main problem is for me, I don't think he's got. I think he lost a lot of confidence when he has played. It doesn't seem like he's as confident as he once was.
You know what? That's a great point. I've been saying this for a little while. There was a game against Burnley where he was through on goal and it was the last minute and we were already 1-0 up and you're thinking, just smash the ball, or just go around the keeper. And he just did a really tame shot. And for me, I think you're right. I think his confidence has taken a little bit of a knock because people think with Anthony Martial or in the past, he's always had that bit of swagger to him, like he's not like he don't care, but nothing phases him. And I think now maybe things are getting into his head a little bit because he has missed quite a lot of chances and it's unlike him. He's usually a very good finisher. So I think you're right. I think confidence is becoming an issue for him.
With a lot of football players, especially over these last 2 seasons, with the lockdown that's been happening, yeah, I do you think that's also had a lot to do with their mental health? Because obviously they're still human beings, aren't they? And I know they've got loads of money, but just because you have loads of money doesn't mean that your mental health can't be affected.
Exactly. You make a very good point, and I think we're too quick sometimes to dismiss that and the effects it has on young players on their mental health. I mean, these are young lads who are used to going out all the time, socializing all the time, being out and about, and playing football and training all the time, and then seeing the mates. When you take that away from players who are under that pressure anyway, immense pressure, it must be very difficult. Everyone struggles in lockdown. I'm not saying footballers are the only ones. We've all got stuff going on. It's all been difficult, but for some of us, like myself, I'm a little bit older. I don't go out anymore anyway. So I've got my family at home. I'm okay staying in a lot of the time. It's fine. But for other young players and young people, they want to go out, they want to socialise. And when you take that away from them, and they've got the added pressure of being a footballer, yeah, it's going to have a massive effect on their mental health. And I think we need to remember that.
Because the way I look at it, yeah, because me and you went to the shops, yeah. Obviously, nobody would really care, but if they go to those shops doing lockdown, I guarantee there's people following them to, just wait them, just waiting for them to mess up on the COVID restrictions, just to say, oh, it's so and so not keeping up with the COVID restrictions, and then they get a load of stick from the media and from fans. So it was not me like it was not me like creating terms like the social expectation on you.
No, you're right. I mean, like you say, we've seen it in the press, haven't we? We've seen the reports when someone's broke lockdown, when a footballer's broke lockdown, or someone in the public eye has, and they get hammered. So that's another element that's going to play on your mind and going to make it even more difficult for you when you're struggling anyway.
At the end of the day, yes, they have a lot of expectation, and they are paid handsomely for that. But at the end of the day, they're still human beings, and they should be treated like that.
I think you're spot on. I think we all need to do that as fans. We need to remember that and give people and players not the benefit of the doubt is probably not the right word, but be a little bit more understanding, be a little bit more patient sometimes with footballers because, as you said, they are human. And it's easy to go, well, they've got loads of money. If you're struggling, having loads of money doesn't solve all your problems. And I think sometimes we see this on social media, the hashtag be kind. And I think that's something we can all remember rather than just posting a social media hashtag. I think we actually could be a little bit kinder to players and just remember that, yes, we can criticize players. Yes, we can say the performances weren't great. But as I was saying to you earlier, I think we can be a little bit more understanding, especially during a pandemic, of just how difficult it is for everyone, for fans, for just people in general, and for footballers as well.
No, you probably didn't see the interview, but did you, obviously Jesse Lingard came out and spoke about his mental health, yeah, and I was thinking, if he wasn't in such good form, there would be people getting ready to hammer him and say he's just making excuses why he's not playing as well.
Well, that actually happened. And funnily enough, when we were full-time Devils, we had Jesse Lingard on the channel and he spoke about his mental health issues then. And then we when the interview went out, it wasn't long after that his form wasn't great and people were criticising him and people were saying it was a bit of an excuse. And then when he went to West Ham and he was playing, like you just said, he was playing really well, scored 9 goals, I think, in about 14 games or something stupid. And he spoke out about it. And people started to be a bit more sympathetic because he's playing well. And that's a sad thing. I think if your footballer comes out and says, I'm struggling mentally, then people don't sort of understand that because they're struggling mentally, that's going to affect the performances on the pitch. And I think that people need to be a little bit more understanding because when you saw it with Dan James, he spoke about his mental health issues. And again, he's someone whose form's been a bit up and down. If someone is struggling, I think they deserve credit for coming out, speaking about mental health issues. And maybe as well, fans can try and just put ourselves in their shoes for a minute and just try and understand what it's like for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, but what we want Jesse Lingard, yeah, I think he'd go away from Man United on a permanent deal. I know he's a Man United fan, obviously, but sometimes I think it can be better off playing for a different club rather than your boyhood club. But some people can handle that pressure, and as we've just spoken about, it can really affect certain people. And I think playing for West Ham has really helped Jesse Lingard.
Spot on. I love Jesse Lingard. He scored some big goals for Manchester United, 2 goals in 2 cup finals, of course. And he made the Emirates his dance floor famously when we played Arsenal, and it really wound the Arsenal fans up. But he's been a different type of player. He's been like the player of old at West Ham, and I think maybe it is time for him to move on because it just wasn't happening for him at United anymore. And if he does move on, I wish him well because I'll always have a soft spot for Jesse Lingard.
Not only at United, yeah, but I do think that fans that come from that club, like people that come from the academy that are big clubs, yeah. Do you think sometimes it can be a bit unfair on them because when you come through the academy, so when you come through the academy, there can be unrealistic expectations on you. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people expect players that have come through Manchester United academy, Liverpool's academy, probably, City's academy now. If you look at it, and they expect you to be at the very top level, they expect you to be able to perform. Like we were saying earlier, players at 22, 23 can be almost dismissed. Yet some players take longer to develop, and Jesse Lingard was one of them. So Alex Ferguson, I think, when he looked at Jesse Lingard, said he's the type of player because of his physique who won't be ready until he's 23. And that's what happened. I think he made his debut for United when he was 23. So, being at a top level club and coming through that academy, it does add to your expectation. And I think that sometimes you just have to temper that expectation a little bit.
Obviously there's been players throughout the year that have gone through these certain academies and they became superstars. Look at David Beckham, even though he wasn't at you guys for very long in comparison to his career. Obviously came through your academy and he became a superstar at your club. But for other people, it doesn't really work like that, as we just said. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, David Beckham was a bit of a phenomenon when he was a kid. Was being spoken about. I'm old enough to remember that class of '92 team, and it was just a fantastic team, and he was a brilliant player in that team. He went out on loan, I think, to Preston, and Preston fans were raving about him. But yeah, David Beckham is one of the greatest players ever. Most academy players, a lot of academy players don't even make it. Some of them, even though they come from Manchester United, they might end up playing non-league or not making it. And I think that we need to support them a little bit better as well for players that don't make it, because sometimes once they leave a club, they don't know what to do with themselves and they're sort of left to fend for themselves. So I think that's something else that maybe clubs can do a little bit better, especially clubs like Manchester United, when we do release players or when players do move on, just making sure that they are being looked after.
So what you're saying is there should be some sort of aftercare, if you know what I mean. Uh, I know it sounds silly to us. It's not the end of the world, but to them, when you be at an academy for like nine, you're 9 years old, and now you're like 21. Obviously, you've had all that time basically being groomed to be a pro footballer, and then as soon as you think, oh, I'm gonna make it, you end up getting released for whatever reason, and then unless you have a good support bubble around you, you are gonna struggle.
100%. I think you're right about aftercare. I think there is that, and you need that support. And if you haven't got a big family or a family to look out for, if you haven't got the right people around you, maybe you've accumulated some hangers on and stuff like that, then it can be difficult. You saw the problems that Ravel Morrison had when he left United. He didn't really have the support perhaps that he needed. So definitely, I think that's something that all clubs can look at, making sure that youngsters are looked after, not just when they're at the club, but when they leave as well.
Now, obviously, you actually saw the class of '92 alive, yeah. So at the time, yeah, was their fans basically giving them criticism every week? But obviously nowadays, because of what they did throughout their career, that they are they are glo- they are celebrated. But at the time, I imagine there was a load of fans that hated them.
They hated the class of '92.
like I'm just thinking now, football fans are nowadays, and I can imagine it was like that to a certain degree back then. Obviously, there would not have been that vocal because obviously there was no social media back then.
Yeah, I think when the class of '92 broke through, I remember like everyone was talking about because certain players, because obviously Giggs had played in the first team. Scholes, I think, had played a little bit. Nicky Butt. So you knew who these players were. Like you'd seen them, and then if you watched that class of '92 team, it was a phenomenal team. There was some really good other young teams as well. I think Leeds had a good team as well at that time, and one or two others. And that class of '92 just seemed special. But like you saying, when those players were facing criticism, it was only in the ground, and in the ground, the fans tend to get behind the young players. So there wasn't social media, there wasn't all that sort of stuff of people putting stuff on Twitter, and that probably helped them because they weren't faced with much criticism because you tend in the ground to get behind your young players and support them more. So it would have been interesting had it been different, had there been social media to see how that would have affected them. I still think obviously they'd have shone because there's such good players, but yeah, a lot of the fans at the time when it came to the class of '92 absolutely loved him. I think it only went sour for the likes of David Beckham when he got sent off for England, of course. Fans everywhere turned on him. But United fans stuck with him, and United fans always love players, especially that have come through the academy, and that's what we do with the class of '92. We stuck by them.
The reason why I asked that is because I'm only 25, so obviously when they were prominent, I would have been a bit too young to fully appreciate, to fully understand what it was actually like. Because obviously nowadays, when they get spoke about, they obviously get celebrated. But as I'm, so I was just wondering what was it actually like at the time. But as you've just said, most of the fans were behind them.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty for the class of '92 when it came through was in the summer, we sold Mark Hughes, Paul Ince, and Andrei Kanchelskis, who were three of our best players. And then you had all these kids come through, and it's like, what is Ferguson doing? Why have we sold all these players and we're replacing them with kids? And there was a lot of doubt there. There was some people saying, are they good enough? Remember, we got beat at Villa on the opening day of the 95-96 season. Alan Hansen obviously said you can't win anything with kids. And then after that, they kicked on. I think they won sort of 7 of the next 10 games or whatever it was. Went on this mad run and just never looked back. And we won the double that year. So, yeah, there were some doubts when they first came through, especially because they were replacing such good players in Ince, Kanchelskis and Hughes. But they were just so talented. And we also had some of the good older players around, the likes of Roy Keane, the likes of Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Peter Schmeichel. So, and Eric Cantona, of course, I almost forgot. So it wasn't just these kids. They had the right players around them, and it was just the perfect mix of these young, talented kids coming through and these experienced players who were able to help nurture them.
Why do you think that's difficult? Why do you think that's difficult to replicate nowadays? Then nowadays, it feels like you have one audience, but you have loads of veterans that that are still quality, but they're obviously on the wrong side of their career. Or you have a lot of young players, but you might not have any experience to guide them.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem that a lot of teams have is that you don't have that perfect mix in that way. You know, you've got players that are a bit older or past the best. You've got youngsters that aren't quite ready. And I think when you go back to that class of '92 team, you had the perfect mix because these players as well, the likes of David Beckham, he'd been out on loan. The likes of Nicky Butt had played some for the first team. Paul Scholes had played for the first team. Giggs had been in the first team for about 2 seasons. So they had a little bit of first team experience. And also, they were still very young and raw, but they had good players in that dressing room who were able to guide them. You had a lot of leaders in that dressing room, the likes of Keno, Eric, Peter Schmeichel, Steve Bruce. They're all captains United at one time or another. So with all those leaders, with those younger players, it was just perfect. And, you know, like you say there, some teams, Villa or whatever, don't have that. And I think it's very rare that you get that perfect mix and you get such a good crop of youngsters all coming through at the same time. Because that team in '92, if you look at it, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Phil Neville, and Gary Neville all went to play for England for the next 10 years. And David Beckham, sorry, five of the England team came through that Manchester United academy at the same time, which is crazy.
Like, yeah, and you also think it's because there's a lot more money, there's a lot more money in the game. So when people like Beckham were coming through, they had, they had something to really gain from playing good. Like when you look at some of these players now, because they've had money since they're like really young. Some of them, there's no real incentive to improve. If you know what I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's with certain players, there's not really any incentive to improve.
No, I know what you mean. And it's funny, I don't know if you've seen the Class of 92 documentary, but David Beckham talks about how when you got to 25 appearances for Manchester United, you got a Ford Orion car. And that wasn't a massive car. That wasn't like a Ferrari or a Mercedes or anything like that. It was just a pretty bog standard car. But that's what you got when you got to 25 appearances. And he speaks about how he was on 24 appearances for ages, just waiting to get this car. Nowadays, a player by the age of 18 would have a top of the range Range Rover or do you know what I mean? I don't know, a Lamborghini or something. So it shows the difference even now and then where players were having to strive just to get something like a half decent car.
But on the other hand, you get playing like Jack Grealish, like, even though quite a while, I would imagine him quite a wealthy player by his standards, by Villa standards, but he still wants to improve himself and he still wants to strive to be the best.
That's what separates the great players from the world-class players. You know, some players are born with that talent and they do well. Others are born with that talent and they strive to be the best all the time. And I think you have certain players. Beckham is a good example. He practiced free kicks constantly after training. Eric Cantona stayed after training and practiced. Jack Grealish looks like the type of player that just wants to be as good as he can be and has the talent as well. When you've got that talent and that determination, that's when you become a truly world-class player. And I think Jack Grealish can do that.
Like, I would also put Harry Kane in that category because at this point in his career, Harry Kane could coast that. Like if he wanted to, he could stop at Spurs for the rest of his career and become like a proper Spurs legend and become a one career man. But now he wants to go out there and he wants to win trophies and he wants to solidify his name at the top of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Harry Kane, like you say, he scored all these goals, but what has he won? He's not won anything trophy-wise. You know, someone like Jamie Vardy's won the Premier League, he's won the FA Cup. Other players, other strikers have won lots of trophies. Even the likes, you know, some of the players at United, when you talk about Andy Martial and Marcus Rashford, have won the Europa League, the FA Cup, the League Cup. And Harry Kane scored hundreds of goals and he's got nothing to show for it other than individual awards. So if he wants to push himself and test himself and take it to the next level, he's going to have to go with a different club and also play in the Champions League because Spurs aren't even in the Champions League this season.
Like look at that list. Yeah, obviously he was a great player for Southampton in his day, but when you look at his career, did he actually win anything? From what I can remember, he didn't.
No, I think if you look at Matt Le Tizier's time at Southampton, I think most of the time they finished sort of bottom half of the league. He scored a lot of goals. He scored some fantastic goals. But I think he only got capped by England about 3 times as well. So there wasn't a lot on the international front. He didn't win any trophies. Legend at Southampton, obviously. But, you know, a player of his ability could have gone to a different club, a bigger club, and won a lot of trophies, and he didn't win anything.
It's like that's what really annoys me at certain players. Yeah, certain players, they have like somebody like Harry Kane. Harry Kane has more talent than certain players have in the whole. In the Harry Kane has more talent in his pinky toe than other players have in the whole body. Yeah, but because because they have the, because certain players have good agents, they get the big news.
Yeah, well, this is it. Sometimes it is all about your agent, isn't it? That's what your agent's paid for. And your agent wants to make as much money, not for you, but for him. So a lot of the time it is about the agent. And I think, you know, you look at some of the moves that certain players have got and you think they must have a good agent because you look at him, you think how they ended up getting that big money move when the talents perhaps don't deserve it. But with someone like Harry Kane, he's always going to have clubs coming in for him. It'll just be interesting to see where he goes this summer, because if he does move, he's going to cost a lot of money.
I think Alan Shearer will be silently hoping he goes abroad, because if he stops in England, Alan Shearer goal scoring record is going to be fucked up.
Yeah. That's the one thing Alan Shearer's always got, any that goal scoring record in the Premier League. Is it 260 Premier League goals Alan Shearer's got? Well, he was another player that he went to Newcastle when United wanted him. He went to Blackburn when United wanted him. He won the Premier League at Blackburn, but he could have won a lot more. And I think Housen spoke to him the other week, and he said on Rio Ferdinand's channel, he said, how many trophies would you have won if you'd have come to United? And Alan Shearer said loads. So, you know, even he knows that he could have moved on, but I think he was happy to stay at Newcastle and go to Newcastle because he's a Newcastle fan.
But you have to commend him though, because the one thing people don't take into consideration, when Alan Shearer was playing for Newcastle were not a bad side. They were challenging for the league. With you guys at one point, I think in '95.
Yeah, they had a couple of title challenges, Newcastle. I think they had one before Alan Shearer was there and one after he was there. So yeah, they were a good team, not like they are now, where they're sort of struggling in mid-table. But yeah, you know, like I said, Alan Shearer did well at Blackburn, scored loads of goals, won the title, played well at Newcastle, scored loads of goals, and was obviously happy because he was his boyhood club.
When you compare Alan Shearer to like somebody like Michael Owen, for example, I know Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or, but when you think about his legacy, what would his legacy be? Because he's not really beloved at Liverpool. He's not beloved at, well, you can tell me. Is he beloved at Man United? I wouldn't think so.
No, not really, no.
So what have you really got to show for it apart from the Ballon d'Or?
No, I think Michael Owen's one of those players. I don't think Liverpool fans like him because he played for United, and United fans don't like him because he still thinks of himself as a Liverpool fan. So no one really likes him, to be honest with you. The Newcastle fans hate him because he never played there and cost them a load of money.
And the Madrid fans don't like him because they don't like anybody. They don't like him.
That's true. And he took Raul's place in the team, didn't he? So they didn't like him when he was there.
So he was obviously, I don't think he's there because he got paid, but when you think about his career, what has he really got to hang that on? The fact he won the Ballon d'Or.
That's it, really, isn't it? He won a title at United, but he was only a bit part player there. He was like just a squad member, barely got enough appearances to pick up a medal.
Like I could have been in that squad. That's how much you would insignificant. I could have been. To be fair, to be honest, because he did score the winning goal for you against Man City, didn't he, that season?
Yeah, well, that was the season before, actually. The season before he won the title, where he played a few more games. He got that winner. That was his big moment. He got a hat-trick, I think, against Wolfsburg. But most of the time, he was injured when he was at United. Like, most of his later career, he was just injured all the time, wasn't
he? Yeah, I could have taken this one.
You'd have probably been more popular than he was.
But you know, players like Michael Owen, I do wonder if you got them by themselves away from the cameras. You ask them, what would you define your career by? What do you think they would say? Because to be honest with you, I don't see what he could. I don't see what he could say apart from the Ballon d'Or.
No, I think you're right. I think, you look at the goal against Argentina in '98, like you said, the derby goal, he's got some moments, but winning the Ballon d'Or when he was 21, I think. But his career never really hit the heights that it was expected. He got a couple of injuries when he was young. And, he peaked when he was like 21, 22, Michael Owen. By the time he was 27, 28, he was well past his best. And that's usually the time when most players are at the peak.
Like, say what you're like Steven Gerrard, and I know you're a United fan, so you're obviously gonna criticise him. But I think Steven Gerrard is the perfect example of, yes, he didn't win anything, but he's beloved at Liverpool, and sometimes that can be more iconic than winning trophies.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be fair to Steven Gerrard, I know he messed up when they were going to win the league, but he did win the Champions League. He did win the FA Cup. You know, Slippy G, he did make me laugh when that happened with Demba Ba. But he's loved by the Liverpool fans because of, you know, he was always one of their best players. He stuck around for a long time, won him some trophies. But yeah, I think that for him, he's probably, you know, he's probably going to actually end up going back there one day as manager. I think you look at the job he's done at Rangers.
Like, you know, if you were a footballer, yeah, would you rather win trophies and leave Man United, or would you rather stop at Man United but never win trophies?
For me, I'd love to just play for Manchester United, no matter what. So if we won trophies, great. If we didn't, okay. But yeah, I'd always want to play for Manchester United. I'd love that'd be a dream come true.
Yeah. Do you want me to be honest? I would rather win trophies. I'm not saying I would become a mercenary, but I would think about, I would think towards the end of my career how many trophies I won. Have I actually achieved anything in my career?
That's fair enough. I think football is about trophies, and you know, when players look back, they can go, "Oh yeah, I played lots of games. I won some England caps, and I played in some finals, whatever." But the thing they'll remember, the thing they'll be fond of, or the thing they'll boast about is the amount of trophies they've won.
Like, look at Damien Dale. I think we can both admit that he's not a good footballer in terms of iconic moments. But he's won a lot of trophies, and he's a little bit of a snake.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Well, this is it. Sometimes you just end up at the right club, don't you? Where the club's winning trophies and you're just part of that.
The one thing I don't like is when players say, "I'm never going to leave," and then they end up leaving. Like, they don't say anything like that. I'm sure fans would understand if people were going to leave if they didn't say, "I'm never going to leave."
Yeah, I think that's a common thing that footballers do. They say like, "Oh, I'm going to stay. I love it here," kissing the badge and all that sort of stuff. And then next thing you know, a big money move comes in and they're off. But it's the sort of nature of the beast in it. We've seen it so many times with footballers over the years. They say they're going to stick around and they end up moving, and it's just one of those things that happens.
To be honest, if I was a footballer, I would make no, I would make no, I would make no I would make no statements like that. I would actually say, if if the right move comes along, I'm gonna move. Now some fans might hate you for that, but some fans might actually respect you for that.
I know the trouble is that I think you're right. Some fans might hate you, and you might be getting a bit of stick when you're still playing for him. Yeah, it's a difficult one to be that honest, but at least you be honest.
Like, I think sometimes, like, I'm not saying all players are dumb, but I think some of them don't lack the awareness that sometimes it's better just to get your mouth shut when it
Yeah,
comes.
yeah, I think that's good advice. Keep your mouth shut. Definitely, not enough players do that.
Not enough celebrity. Not, you know, look from the eye going away from football. I think a lot of celebrities have the best intentions, but I think they're not intelligent enough just to keep it simple. Yes or no answers.
That's a bit of a harsh criticism, but probably fair. I think you're right. Yeah, especially some of the so-called celebrities we see nowadays.
Like I, I know a lot of people criticise people for being media trained because you blame them for how they get portrayed nowadays. Like, you can say one thing out of context, and then the next minute you can be labelled. So yeah, it's just one of them things. We have to know what you're saying at all times.
Yeah, you've got to be guarded. You've got to be a bit more savvy and just know what you're saying. And sometimes you need to be well advised as well.
Even do what we do to a certain extent, even though we're not big celebrities, even do what we do, we have to be careful what we say.
Oh yeah,
Only,
100%. 100%. Yeah, you know where that can go, who can see it. And if you say something wrong, then it can end up, getting picked up, especially with social media. You've always got to be careful of what you say.
that's why on Twitter I don't really use Twitter like that. I post what I need to post, and then I don't really use it like to at least express to at least express my proper opinion. I keep my I keep my Twitter post to like one sentence or two sentences because on Twitter people manipulate things to what they want them to be.
That's it. It's probably the best way. That be careful on Twitter. It can be a bit of a nightmare. It can be a right cesspit, Twitter.
So, so obviously, because I assume you used to write articles. So the first time you got Twitter, do you think you handled it right? Did you handle it in the right way? Looking back on it in hindsight.
Well, what happened with me, because I was a reporter, and we used to cover Manchester City as well as Manchester United, and I used to tweet a lot about how much I didn't like City, and City, when City lost, it was shit and all this. And my boss saw it, and he was like, "You're gonna have to stop doing that because City fans, will kick off." So he asked me to use a different account for my football stuff, and then all my news stuff that I used as a journalism account was like a different account. So I used to have two accounts. One was for all my football opinions, and another one was for all like the news stuff that I did. So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve. I almost got myself in trouble, but I ended up okay.
My take when it comes to Twitter, I wouldn't say anything on Twitter that I wouldn't say to somebody's face.
That's a good way to look at it. I think there's too many people that hide behind a keyboard. But if you take it as, you know what, I'll only say things to people on Twitter that I'd say to the face, you end up not getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah, a lot of people accuse me of playing the game, and I think no, like just being smart in 2021.
Sorry, say that again.
A lot of people accuse me of playing the game. You know what I mean? And I just think no, that's just smart in 2021 to clean the
Of
night.
course it is, man. You know what I mean? You understand what's the era we're living in, what it's like as well, and what can happen. And I think you have to be clever and you have to be smart, you have to be savvy around it, because anything can happen to you if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing on social media. And words have consequences. So I think you're dead right to be careful.
So I'll be. It's the one video on it's the one video on Stretford Paddock. Like in hindsight, you would have done a little bit better on, like would be why you connected the point properly or whatever.
I think sometimes, like when I've done a watch along, and because it captures you when you're angry at a player and you snap and you shout in the moment, you're like, "Oh, what are you fucking doing?" And then you look back and you think it looks bad now when you watch it back. Sometimes you think, can I just calm it down a little bit and just not be as, sort of hot tempered or inflammatory or whatever. Yeah, that it can be the live videos now and again. You think maybe I could have been a little bit kinder there, but most of the videos I've done on Stretford Paddock, I've quite enjoyed doing. I'm quite proud of him. But there are some times when we've done a live video where you think maybe I was a little bit too harsh on that player in the moment, and with a little bit of reflection, they didn't deserve it.
Because the problem is for me, yeah, with the live videos, yeah, my problem is, yeah, some get at me in the live comments, yeah, I, I, I end up I just end up having a public debate with that one person in the live chat, and then it ends up ruining the stream. So I don't do live streams anymore for that reason.
Yeah, you don't want to spend all the live stream arguing with one person. Do you know what I mean? It's easily done though. I've done it before, and you've just got to ignore certain people or just get on with it.
And when people are speaking to other people in the live chat,
Yeah.
I think they're speaking to me. So I end up stopping what I'm saying to try and follow along with the chat. So it ends up becoming like a bit of dead air.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing you don't want is dead air. You don't want just silence, people watching silence, because that's, a viewer's worst nightmare. Yeah, sometimes you just got to keep things moving, keep them flowing, and just ignore the haters.
So I prefer pre-recorded content. I know live content is obviously not more popular right now, but I prefer pre-recorded so I can articulate myself in the right way, and so I can present myself how I want to be presented.
Good advice. Good way to look at it. Pre-recorded, always better. You've got that safety net. If you say anything you don't want to put on air, you can always take it out. You can always edit it, and you can always package it up. So yeah, maybe one day you go back to doing the live videos, but there's nothing wrong with pre-recorded videos. It's often the best way.
Like what, if I was doing it with somebody like you, for example, I think I could do it a lot better because obviously I could say to you, you could man a live chat or do whatever, and then I could present the video, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're doing it all on your own as well. If you're doing a live video on your own and you're having to do all the producing and monitor the comments and present, it's very hard. It's very difficult. I've
and
done it before, and it's not easy.
and especially if you don't have moderating on at that particular time, you have to catch you have to catch final comments, and then if you're having to catch them sort of comments, it can really interrupt the video, and then you try to get it back on track.
Exactly. This just gets derailed.
So obviously you interviewed Alex Ferguson. What was that like?
It was amazing because obviously, you know, my hero, the manager who was managing my club for 27 years almost, won all those trophies. I was so nervous. I'd never interviewed him before and was waiting in the it was at the premiere of his documentary. So it was like a red carpet event. So he came up and he did a little interview with several people. And as he was approaching, my heart was pounding because I was like, oh my God, it's Alex Ferguson. And then he stopped, managed to ask him a few questions. He was dead friendly, dead happy. He was like out cracking a joke. And it was just one of those sort of magical moments, you know, where you're sort of pinching yourself like, is this really happening?
Like from that experience for me would be like with somebody like Dwayne Johnson or like John Cena or Kevin Hart. That would be my favourite interview because I really respect them as as entertainers. That would be my dream interview.
Well, you never know. You know, sometimes you think, oh, well, I get that dream interview. And I waited years to speak to Sir Alex Ferguson. I got it. So whether your dream interview is, you know, it might change. You know, you might change your opinion on who it is, but just keep going. And I'm sure one day you'll get to interview anyone you want.
Yeah, obviously, I imagine you've done loads of interviews at your career. So when you've interviewed people, yeah, it just take you a while to get a hang of it, like how to ask certain questions, and how to phrase certain questions without making it sound like you are without making without making it sound like you are in a dig at the person. Because sometimes the way I word questions when I watch it back, I know it can sound like I'm having a dig at the person. So have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, sometimes I think you learn the more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it, and you've got certain people respond better to different ways of interviewing them and different techniques. And also, what can make it difficult is if you're in like a mix zone or a situation like with Fergie where you've only got a little bit of time. Sometimes you're trying to get certain points and trying to get them across quickly. It can be difficult, and it's a lot easier when you can sit down with someone and do that interview over like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour or whatever, rather than having to rush it. And another thing I found as well, doing interviews via Skype and Zoom, that can be difficult because you're not with that person and that interaction is different. So I think with anything, you just got to keep at it, keep practicing, and you learn different interview techniques and just how to make an interviewee feel comfortable and open up to you.
Like, I don't know how you think this interview gone so far, but I think it's been like something like nothing. We've had a good chat about a variety of different things.
I think it's been one of the best interviews I've ever done, to be honest with you. It's nice to be interviewed instead of interviewing someone. I've enjoyed it.
So do you know you're like a mix zone, and obviously with loads of other people trying to get interviewed sometimes because somebody else has been a dickhead. So it's just sometimes you can get the front of that.
Yeah, if someone's been up, like you say, been a dickhead and they've upset someone, then by the time they get to you, they might not want to talk to you, or they might just give you one word answers. That's the problem when you do mix zone. It can be quite difficult. It can be a bit of a free for all. And if someone's done like the same questions over and over again, they just get a little bit bored of it. That's why when I interviewed Fergie, I had different questions than what other people were asking him, because mine were more sort of nostalgic rather than about the documentary and what was going on at the minute.
Because that's why I like to do sit down in interviews like this. That I know the person's actually interested in doing it, and I know the person's going to be engaging to a certain degree.
Definitely. A lot easier doing a sit-down interview than it is doing a mix zone or something over Zoom. Trust me.
Because eventually I want to get into like a proper studio so I can have the person sit sitting by me, so we don't have to do with lag and things like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I do prefer doing it over this because obviously, obviously when you're in the studio, you have to book it out, and then you have to find the right time and day, and then it just sometimes days fall through and things like that.
Yeah, it can be very difficult. The logistics, organising things, getting people into the studio, it can just be a bit of a nightmare. And even doing it on Zoom, like you say, sometimes you're trying to get it arranged, you're trying to get a time arranged. It can be hard. But I think the one good thing about technology now is you are able to do more interviews online. You are able to do it via Skype, StreamYard, or Zoom. Where when I started out as a reporter, you had to do them face to face or over the phone. That was it.
Like, for example, if somebody's in America and they're only gonna come over once a year, by the time they come over here, their film, their film or their project could be like 6 months old, and then the interview could be worthless.
Well, this is it. Yeah, if you had to wait too long and it's no longer relevant, we did an interview with Harry Maguire on the channel that we couldn't end up using because he was promoting a football boot, and then lockdown happened. And by the time lockdown had finished and we were going to show it, there was a new football boot that Puma wanted to promote, so we couldn't use the interview.
Espe- Especially with me, because unfortunately, because of my disability, it's hard for me to fly. So that's going to be a big problem once the world opens up back to quote unquote normal, whatever that's going to be like. But you know what I mean? Like, cause I can't really fly anywhere. I'm gonna have to think about I'm gonna have to think about how I'm gonna do it in in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, you can always use Zoom, Skype, doing it online. There's always that option. And listen, if you get an interview online or on Zoom, that's better than getting no interview. So don't worry about that.
And I think doing it virtually can sometimes. I think sometimes it can bring a unique perspective because if you get somebody in their own environment, I think sometimes it can be a bit more relaxed. You know what I mean?
Definitely. It puts people at ease as well. It's weird because some people prefer being in the studio. Other times when they're online, they're in their own home or whatever, so they're more at ease. So it's just horses for courses, really. It depends what sort of, who the interviewee is and where they are. But yeah, sometimes if you're speaking to someone and they're sat at home, it makes it quite comfortable for them anyway.
Yeah, I know. I know if I had to come down if I had to go up to your studio, not that I would feel intimidated, obviously, but I would feel like a bit awkward because I don't know how I'm gonna feel like on your guys' set because it's not something that I'm used to.
You'll have to come down. You have to pay us a visit and come and have a look and see how you find it.
All joking aside, you know your studio, has it got good disabled access?
We've got a lift, and I'm not sure. I think, yeah, downstairs we've got two studios. The downstairs one in the basement has got good disabled access. The one upstairs you have to use the lift. So I think, yeah, you think you'd be all right. You'd be able to come up and see us.
You know, old Trafford, yeah. I've agree with that. The disabled access and the disabled sittings terrible. Is,
Yeah.
is that the case?
Um, for us, where we are, it's not terrible. But I've been in studios before in places where the disabled access hasn't been good enough.
No, no, I'm not in the studio. I said at Old Trafford. I've
Oh,
heard that.
Old Trafford. Sorry. We do a lot of stuff. I don't know if you know a lad called Alex Neil, who's disabled. We've done a lot of stuff with him about disabled access, and sometimes it's been okay and it's been quite good. Other times, I think there's room for improvement, especially with where they put the disabled fans sometimes for the European games. But they have made sort of some changes at Old Trafford. I think that's part of the law and the new legislation as well. So we'll have to wait and see what it's like next season when the fans are back in and whether they made positive changes when it comes to disabled access.
Because, because obviously, because obviously me having cerebral palsy, I don't think they need to do act like the society accent because obviously if it doesn't affect you then 9 times out of 10 you're not gonna act right, are you?
No, I mean, this is the thing. You know, we've had Alex and John, his dad, on the channel. Loads of times, and I think they've been on there. I interviewed him actually for the radio because I don't know if you remember when Juan Mata got off the bus and went and took his photo with the lad in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
That was Alex Neil, and he's quite well known. But it's not a subject that gets talked about a lot, and it's good that you're talking about and you're doing videos around it as well, because it's something that should be discussed a lot more often.
Like, cause a lot of people don't realise that there's actually something called wheelchair football, yeah. And a lot of people think that it's an easy game to play. And I can tell you now, it's a lot more tactical than people give it credit for.
We went to a wheelchair football game with Adam McCullough and Wes Brown in Manchester for the Manchester United Foundation. It was a good game, and Adam McCullough took it very seriously.
I can imagine. I used to play it, but it used to destroy my back. So I had to stop playing it.
Oh, yeah, it looked like it was quite a testing game.
When I was younger, my first ever game, yeah, we had a tournament with my school, yeah, and I actually took back, and I actually took that all wheelchair.
Cool.
So yeah, so I have two more questions, and then I'll let you go because it's quite late. So,
Okay, mate. No worries.
so my ultimate question: where would you like Stretford Paddock to go to? Like, what is your ultimate goal for Stretford Paddock?
I'd like us to keep doing what we're doing, to keep growing, keep getting, good guests, getting more people contributing, getting more fans on board, and just getting the channel sort of moving in the right direction. I've been very proud of what we've done over the last sort of 9 months since we took it over. And I just hope that we can keep growing and keep giving people a platform and a voice, because it is about the fans and it is a fan channel. So I just hope that when fans are back in the ground, we can start connecting more with fans as well there, and just keep growing the sort of the amount of people that not just watch Stretford Paddock, but that contribute to it as well.
It's gonna sound like a weird compliment, yeah, but I think you guys on your channel at the moment are one of the best at a variety of people from different backgrounds and different walks of life. A lot of these fan channels have just like the same sort of people on, and they have the same sort of opinions. But you guys have a variety of different opinions.
Yeah, we try and do that. We try and give it, anyone a chance, and anyone who wants to come on, give them an opportunity. That's how we all got started. We did fan cams and stuff and just did interviews and stuff and contributed that way. So we try and give as many fans as we can an opinion. It's not just about our opinion as presenters. It's about just giving fans the platform so they can share their opinion as well.
And it doesn't matter how somebody talks. You let them have their say, because I think sometimes certain people can talk a certain way, and because of how they speak, a lot of people can discredit their opinion.
Yeah, this is it. You should always let someone, I think, unless they're being, ridiculously offensive, whatever, let someone have their say, let them have their opinion. And then if you don't agree with it, you can challenge them on it as well. You can have that debate. And I think that's important and healthy.
Yeah, and I think you guys are really good at that for the most part.
For the most part, thank you.
There's been certain times where I've been like, you could have had a bit more debate there, but I know sometimes with certain things, that somebody ain't gonna push on them. So I'm not saying it's pointless. I'm not saying it's pointless having a debate, but sometimes you have to get your battles, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, definitely. We try and encourage people to have a chat and a debate. And sometimes, like you say, it can get a bit pointless. And also, it doesn't make great viewing if you're just going back and forth and not getting anywhere. But I think we always try and encourage healthy discussion, different opinions, and give as many fans as possible a platform to share their views with other Manchester United fans.
Yeah, so are you supporting England in the Euros or not? Or don't you really care? Good for me, I don't really care, to be honest, like that England.
I do support them, I think, but not as much as I support Manchester United. I do want England to win. I'm one of those fans that when he gets to a major tournament, I tend to get behind him. But it's difficult sometimes, especially the other day until Marcus Rashford came on, I don't even think there was a Manchester United player playing for England. I prefer it when there's a few United players as well to get behind.
And I just find it really awkward because I think a lot of England fans, I'm just going to say that they don't strike me as very open-minded people. They're very like your stereotypical British person. Like when you see some of them England fans, they, they got like grown out bellies and they got like no top on, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I know what you mean. Yeah, I've been to a couple of England games, and yeah, you do get a lot of that element. But I think sometimes it's the cameras or whatever focus on them, or the press can focus on them. There's a lot of families that go and watch England nowadays. A lot of younger fans as well. I think there is a mixed bag, but yeah, sometimes England fans do look a bit like, what is all that about?
So my last question: what is your ultimate life goal?
My ultimate life goal. Oh, mate, that's a big question. That's a very good question. Don't even think I've ever been asked this before. What is my ultimate life goal? I think my ultimate life goal would be just that do you know what? My ultimate life goal would be to just do the best I can for the rest of my life in terms of with my family, raising my family in the right way, doing the right things on the channel, and just being an all-round good person and being thought of as a good person, because I think that's underrated. People always look at success and what have you achieved and what have you got and what you own and all that sort of stuff. But I think if you can live life the right way and be a good person, I think that's a good life goal to have.
My my ultimate life goal will try now to try and spread the word of equality to everybody. And when I mean everybody, I mean everybody, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion is, no matter whether you got a disability or whatever. I just want everybody to be treated as a human being.
That's a great ultimate life goal. 100% behind that. I think that's a great way to go about your life as well. Everyone should be treated equal. Something I firmly believe in. And I think the more you spread that message, the better it is for everyone.
That feels like England not very inclusive from a lot of these fans. You know what I mean?
I know, and it's a shame because you look at the background of the players and the makeup of the players, and I know we've seen some fans booing the knee, but I think there's still a lot of element of the multicultural fans as well. When it comes to England, there are some younger fans, there's families, there's good England fans as well, for want of a better word. And I think it's a shame that sometimes people look at that minority of England fans and think, are they all thugs? Are they all sort of these types we don't want to be around? But I do think there's a lot of good England fans out there, and hopefully they'll start sort of showing their support for the England team in the right ways as well.
Because I know for me, I want to inspire. I want to inspire a lot of not only disabled people but a lot of other people. That no matter what your difference in life, if you believe in yourself and you've got enough wit and personality, your talent will shine through.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think that's well said.
So I think that's the best way to end this interview. So thank you for coming on, Jay.
Anytime, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing more of your videos. And I'll come on again. You have to get you to come up to the studio in Manchester.
I'll definitely do that at some point. So once it goes live, I'll let you know, and then you can share it or do whatever you want with it.
All right. Thanks a lot, mate. Just give me a shout.
I will, mate.
Take
So
care. Thanks a lot, Andy.
it's okay, mate. So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day, evening,